And welcome back. You're on the money. Time now for my daily in-depth interview series, Money Talks. And today I'm delighted to be joined by Ben Nyland, Chief Executive and President of Loop Energy. They're a manufacturer and supplier of hydrogen fuel cell systems for the commercial vehicle industry. Loop's preparing to open its first UK factory in Grays in Essex. And the company says hydrogen power can help to address the UK's pollution problem. Headquartered in Vancouver, Canada, which is a city regarded by many as one of the fuel cell design capitals of the world, Loop also operates manufacturing and business development across Asia and Europe. They're serious players, developing hydrogen fuel cell solutions which could ultimately displace diesel engines while hopefully remaining affordable. So here he is, Ben Nyland, Chief Executive and President of Loop Energy, joining us from Canada, my latest guest on Money Talks. Ben Nyland, we're delighted that you're joining us here on The Money from Vancouver, Canada. You've got up particularly early this morning. We very much appreciate it. We've covered hydrogen, the potential of hydrogen power here a lot on this programme. Just sketch out your vision of why hydrogen is the answer.
Well, Liam, the reality is that in the commercial vehicle sector, diesel is the dominant fuel. There's a reason that those trucks use diesel instead of gasoline. They require longer range capabilities. They require the ability to carry more cargo, and they need to be able to refuel quickly. And all of those elements are what hydrogen fuel cells deliver to commercial vehicles that batteries simply can't. So batteries are very heavy. If you power a commercial vehicle solely with batteries, you encumber the cargo capacity. You can't go the same distance, and then you need to plug it in for hours. So when you look at the commercial business case for commercial vehicles, you need fuel cells to make it work. And we all know we want greener vehicles. It's critically important that we reduce emissions and we get rid of emissions, but we need to do so in a way that the economics actually make sense for the vehicle operator. That's the promise of fuel cells.
We're showing some pictures here of hydrogen trucks that are already being prototyped here in the UK, not Loop Energy trucks, because we've covered hydrogen a lot on this show, Ben. We often talk to somebody called Hugo Spowers, who runs River Simple. He makes hydrogen cars down in Wales. We've talked to JCB, where Lord Anthony Bamford is really pioneering the use of hydrogen for heavy plant equipment. They've developed some incredible technology. We've also talked to other users of hydrogen. I don't really understand why hydrogen isn't higher up the news agenda, because it strikes me if we're using electric vehicles, they need all those rare earths, they need lithium and all the other materials that are so often in China, Central Africa, difficult to get hold of. Hydrogen gets around those problems, doesn't it? So why aren't we talking more about hydrogen, Ben?
Well, look, just a quick comment. The truck you were showing actually does have a Loop engine in it. So
okay.
Teva is the company that's buying our systems. It's the reason we're establishing a beachhead in
They didn't
England,
tell us
actually.
that.
So, yeah, so we're the engine powering that Teva truck.
Fantastic.
Look, the reality is that battery electric vehicles are very easy to deploy in small numbers early on. And so this is the reason why they get traction very quickly in the space, because you can test a battery electric truck simply by plugging it into the wall at your logistics facility. But when you look to scale those fleets, you run into all sorts of the challenges that I talked about earlier, as well as upgrading transmission lines. It's very different charging one truck versus charging 500, or charging one bus versus charging 200, 300 buses. So when those scaling factors come in, that's when fleet operators really start to realize we need hydrogen as a solution here for zero emissions. The other thing that's happening that's starting to push this to the forefront, Liam, is energy security. Yeah. So climate change has been a driver for zero emission vehicles for a very long time. But we saw energy security start to come to the forefront in China about 5 or 6 years ago, and they made fuel cells and hydrogen a strategic priority. And then in Europe, with Russia invading the Ukraine several months ago, energy security became a key talking point. And hydrogen is one of those pillars that allows Europe to reduce and eventually remove dependency on fossil fuels. And so that's why it's really coming to the forefront. It's always been an exceptional solution, but now it's starting to really meet a lot of requirements in the bigger macro market.
So just to talk viewers and listeners through this, you create hydrogen often by electrolysis. That takes energy. If you're using oil and gas to do the electrolysis, it isn't emission neutral. It isn't carbon neutral. If you can use yellow hydrogen, so using atomic energy, or you can use green hydrogen using renewable energy. To what extent do you think governments get that hydrogen is only a sustainable solution from a climate change point of view if it's not using the oil and gas to do the electrolysis in the first place?
I think governments get that in spades, actually. So we're seeing very consistent messaging from governments that they want to push towards the green hydrogen solutions, the nuclear hydrogen solutions. The reality is, as we transition, though, in the interim, we probably need solutions like blue hydrogen, and it gets very confusing with the rainbow of colors for hydrogen, but blue hydrogen comes from fossil fuels and uses carbon sequestration so that the carbon's not emitted. It's captured and stored. And it's not the ideal solution, but practically speaking, we need to use all the tools in the toolbox over the next few years to really get things moving and get the momentum in the supply chain. And so we need to bring everything we can to the table to make this solution work and deploy it in volume. And so ultimately, I think we're going to see green hydrogen being the dominant source, which is from electrolysis, and then obviously some from nuclear. But in the interim, I think we're going to see some blue hydrogen solutions as well. It's just pragmatically speaking, it's a requirement.
Super interesting, Ben. And just finally, tell us about your plans for Grays in Essex and indeed across the UK as a whole. How important is the UK in the rollout of hydrogen solutions for trucks and commercial vehicles globally? And to what extent could your company get involved?
Well, we're seeing the UK really take a leadership position in this space, and especially Teva. Teva has taken a huge leadership position in building hydrogen trucks. And so we want to make sure that we're there to support any industry that's growing around the world. We have built a very significant manufacturing plant just north of Shanghai in China because of the activity that's going on there. This investment into the UK is really our first launch into the European marketplace to have physical presence, and we would expect to grow that over time as the market grows. And so we see a huge amount of activity in Europe. Teva has moved more aggressively than any other vehicle OEM in Europe, and we're extremely impressed with the quality of their operation and with their commitment to growth. And with the quality of the customers they have off taking that product. So we would expect to see the UK really leading the charge. And on a policy basis, the recent increase from commitment of 5 gigawatts of clean hydrogen to 10 gigawatts of clean hydrogen nationally is really expressing that in a meaningful way at a government level as well. So we're seeing government and industry moving hand in hand, and that's what really needs to happen to make progress.
Plus, of course, in Northern Ireland, we should mention we got the Wright Bus Factory building a fleet of hydrogen-powered buses to work in Belfast and elsewhere. Ben Nyland, it's been a pleasure. Chief Executive and President of Loop Energy.